for joining us today. We would like to thank BAE Systems and Philips North America for making this webinar complimentary to all our listeners. A few notes for the NVSBC. We're a month away for our golf tournament, which is on Monday, August 22nd. So all you golfers out there, please sign up for the golf tournament. And after the tournament, we will have a networking session. So please come out and meet your fellow small business owners. And the deadline is this week for nominations for our National Veteran Small Business Gala Awards. So if you want to make a nomination for a Champions Awards, our Veterans Advocacy Awards, or even a Golden Mansfield Award, please sign into our website and submit your nominations today. This webinar is about an hour and 15 minutes and is being recorded. All the slides and recording will be sent to attendees by Friday. If you have any questions, please type in the questions on the right hand of your screen on the control panel. And you guys know who I am. I'm Earl Morgan, and I am really excited today because, as you can see from the photos, I am in my Air Force uniform, and we do have the Air Force District of Washington in today. So before I present our speakers, I'd like to play a video for you. And the video didn't work. Hold on. Let's do this again. Okay. Let me introduce to some of my family. Since we're Air Force brothers and sisters, I'd like to introduce Theresa Clark. She's the director. Christopher Jones, the deputy director, and Mr. Corey Forshee, senior procurement analyst for the Air Force District of Washington Small Business Office. I'd like to please welcome you to our webinar. So, Theresa, the floor is yours.
Well, we are so excited to be here with you guys this morning, being veterans. We're very excited to talk to you about doing business with Air Force District of Washington. And so without further ado, we're going to get right into our mission video. Our mission statement. Go ahead, Chris. Presentation.
Yes, okay, again, I'm Chris Jones, the deputy. Director, Air Force District of Washington Small Business Office. We're going to kick it off with doing business with AFDW. Several tidbits just to give you an overview initially of what AFDW really stands for, our global mission and the like, followed by Mr. Corey Forshee, who is going to offer a lot of specificity with respect to how to find opportunities and so on and so forth. Next slide, please.
You. That would be you.
I hit it, Earl, but it didn't move.
Get your right.
I'll do it.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. All right. In fact, flexibility is the key to air power, right, Earl?
Yes.
Okay, so AFDW, I know there are, should be, a lot of Air Force veterans out there as well. So I'm sure that you guys are intimately familiar with the construct of the Air Force. 10 major commands, a few DRUs, direct reporting units, and I'll touch on a few of these in a second. But our mission is deliver contingency response, ceremonial honors, provide operational support across the nation's capital and worldwide for that matter. As I just mentioned, our command type is a DRU. We are a direct reporting unit, meaning the commander of AFDW reports directly to the Air Force Chief of Staff and responsible for the administration, organization, training, and readiness of the assigned force. As I'm sure many of you are aware, we are headquartered here on Joint Base Andrews here in Maryland and designated July 7th, 2005. We serve and service almost 7,000 airmen worldwide, and we support Air Force, Space Force personnel in the NCR and Global Airmen not attached to an Air Force Major Command. Next slide, please. All right, thanks, Earl. The first mission set that I'd like to share is the contingency response. Very important, as all of them are. But the Air Force component to the Joint Task Force NCR, that's our first overarching subset of contingency response. And as you can see, we support the NORTHCOM contingency plans. We present Air Force forces to the JTF. We also provide the airfield, as again, many of you are aware of, for the NCR and the president, etc. We also prepare to respond to disasters and emergencies. We support the civil authorities here in the National Capital Region, and we also respond with military capabilities if or when needed. We support the continuity of government as well, another very important mission set of ours. And lastly there, the national special security events, so things like the presidential inaugurations, the State of the Union addresses, in fact, even state funerals. So a lot of our personnel here at AFDW support those particular events and happenings directly. Next slide, please. On to the ceremonial honors. So the main subsets here are the Arlington funerals, the DV ceremonial events, and the national outreach. But specifically, the United States Arlington Chaplain Corps directs all of the Air Force aspects of the ANC, the Arlington National Cemetery. We honor fallen airmen and their families with dignity day in and day out. In fact, there are almost 1,300 or probably over 1,300 ceremonies conducted annually under this particular umbrella. United States Honor Guard and Band are under our purview. It's a congressional mandate providing ceremonial support, as I mentioned earlier, for the inaugurations, the state funerals, etc. The Air Force Honor Guard manages the Pentagon Tours program and also strategically communicates the Air Force message with an annual outreach to over 18 million people. Next slide. And lastly, our operational support. So here at Joint Base Andrews, the Naval Air Facility Washington Center is commonly referred to as America's airfield. Let's see, can I? All right, there we go. Okay, all right. Sorry about that, guys. The second major bullet there, Joint Base Anacostia Bowling in DC, the Sentinels of the Capitol, encompasses 1 wing, 2 headquarters, and almost 70 mission partners. The 11th wing, AKA the Chief's Own, United States Honor Guard, as I mentioned previously, the band, the Air Force Chaplain Corps, all reside on Joint Base Anacostia Bowling. DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency's headquarters, is there as well. And lastly, Marine One is headquartered and stationed there on JBAD. Lastly, the 844th Communications Group is the sole Air Force communications unit servicing the NCR, servicing over 18,000 customers. The executive travel for the SecDef, SecCaf, Chief of Staff, and others are under the responsibility of the 844th Communications Group as well. The National Military Command Center, Executive Agent, all C2 and facility support resides under the 844th as well. And lastly, as you can see, with the cooperation of DISA, all of the phone circuits on the Eastern Communication Hub under DoD falls within the purview of the 844th Communications Group. Next slide. So this list is not all encompassing, of course, but these are mission partners, AKA customers of ours, where we would say, I should say, they typically have a lot of requirements, a lot of contract opportunities, okay? That's the best way to explain these mission partners that are listed here. Under the SecCaf, Secretary of the Air Force, you can see there, we have AFDW, the Air Force Cost Analysis Agency. Then we have the JAIC, the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center, and then the Office of Business Transformation, AKA SAF-MG, right? Headquarters Air Force, a couple of the offices that I like to identify is Logistics, Engineering, and Force Protection, the Studies and Analysis Agency, Studies and Analysis and Assessments Agency, and then, of course, the Surgeon General. Headquarters Space Force, and Mr. Forshee is going to touch on a few things later, but he's actually moreover, not say assigned to Space Force, but let's just say he has a lot of inner workings with and around the support of the Headquarters Space Force office. With that, the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer, the Chief Strategy and Resource Office, the CSRO, and the Personnel and Logistics Office as well are two of the major customers that we currently provide a lot of support to. And lastly, Headquarters AFDW, Air Force Office of Special Investigations, AFOSI, the Department of Defense Cyber Crime Center, DC-3, and as I mentioned before, the 844th Communications Group, which falls under the Headquarters AFDW. Next slide, please. Next slide, Earl.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. There we just a slight delay. I apologize. Thank you. So the next couple of slides will deal with the procurement matters, various procurement matters. And the first that I'd like to share is the top NAICS codes in FY21, North American Industry Classification Codes. Scheduled intermission, but I'm going to continue on with the procurement matters, the NAICS codes, as you can see. What I was about to say before, these NAICS codes are pretty similar to FY20. FY22 would probably be the same for the most part as well. But it's a usual suspects for an advisement assistance services and a professional services type of outfit, if you will. 541611, engineering services, wired telecommunications, a lot of the 844th related requirements, R&D and the social sciences. In parens, you see the RAND contract. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the FFRDCs, federally funded research and development centers. So a lot of those efforts are captured via that NAICS code. In the last few there, computer related NAICS codes as well. Programming, computer systems, and all other accounting. One thing I will quickly touch on with that last NAICS code, we have two major requirements on the street from a request of information and, in essence, a sources sought synopsis related to the FIAR effort, financial accounting, investigative accounting and such. Also, another SAF FM related IT effort. I think is called the overarching IT effort. So many of you may have already seen those notices posted on Sam.gov, and I hope you have responded accordingly. Next slide, please. Okay, thanks, Earl. Market research and some common procurement methods and vehicles is what I'd like to quickly touch on next. As I just mentioned, RFIs and sources sought notices are posted each and every time. We try to get that information posted on sam.gov, even if we're utilizing an already established strategic vehicle. There's a lot in the works behind the scenes with respect to that. And just to quickly touch on it, what we're trying to do, even if we're using another vehicle, say Oasis, for example, right? A GSA type of vehicle, we want to at least post some type of notification to sam.gov just to let you guys know that we're planning to procure those services or commodities or whatever the case may be on another vehicle. So more to come about that, but I just wanted to quickly touch on that. The second bullet there, socioeconomic groups are targeted, meaning, of course, any 8A, service disabled, of course, women-owned, and hub-zone. We try our best to ensure that our contract specialists and officers have conducted the proper and adequate market research to identify anyone in those socioeconomic groups. Of course, everyone knows what comes with that, the rule of two. We need at least two capable and responsible small businesses to help us, in this case, myself, Mr. Corey Forshee, and Ms. Clark, when it exceeds $1 million. We need you guys' help in responding to those notices so we can target these groups. You guys are already aware, we cannot target veteran-owned, okay? There's not a particular statutory regulatory requirement for that. For service disabled, of course, you guys are aware of that. So we try to target those groups whenever we can, but we cannot do it without you guys responding to those notices. The third bullet, requirements for setting aside. Well, with respect to the previous bullet, the socioeconomic groups, via the FAR, we are supposed to, contracting officers are directed, in fact, they shall identify and target the socioeconomic groups before we totally set something aside. Now, if we cannot purport the two of those, target the socioeconomic groups, totally set something aside, of course, the last default is to procure those particular services or commodities under full and open procedures. We primarily, again, try to post that information on sam.gov. That is the government point of entry. When we're using GSA, you know, this big category management swing, if you will, contracting officers are not required, and I'm air quoting this, they are not required to post anything, any notifications on sam.gov. But again, as I mentioned before, we are trying to really help spread the word with any upcoming requirements to post at least a notification on sam.gov. DoD ESI, the Enterprise Software Initiative. This is a mandatory vehicle when certain software services and hardware requirements fit the mold. The GWACs, government-wide acquisition contracts, as stated in that last bullet, Oasis, 8A Stars 3, NASA Suit, we utilize those vehicles quite regularly. And what I should have ensured that we had with respect to Oasis, Oasis Small Business, particularly Pool 1, we ensure we try to at least target, when we're using a category management vehicle, we try to ensure that our contracting officers use the same order of priority, if you will. vet the socioeconomic groups, total small business set-asides, and then pulling over. Okay, I just want to make sure we foot stomp that. Next slide, please. So these are 3 of our main outreach events. We have a couple of things coming down the pike, but just to quickly expound on these 3 here, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Thursday of the month, we conduct our what we call our Let's Reverse the Market Research forums, Time for Small Talk, also the Ask the Small Business Professional. As you can see, each and every one of those have a very unique purpose, right? And it's also important to note a lot of our contract specialists and officers do participate in these. We're trying to drum up more participation, but they participate in these to conduct real-time market research. So we're not just meeting with firms just to hear about open-endedly, capability statements or what have you in the traditional form, but these are usually tied to viable current and upcoming opportunities for you guys to express your interest. Okay. And the last thing I like to note is they're hosted typically via Microsoft Teams, these meetings, of course, via Microsoft Teams or Zoom, and they're promoted on Sam.gov. Mr. Forshee and I, and he's here in this real time, we plan to promote these more regularly on Sam.gov. We may even do it on a monthly basis. But one thing I do want to highlight here, you will see our workflow address on the last slide that I'm about to present. But what you do is you send a message to that workflow box. You express your interest, which particular forum you'd like to attend. If you have a preferable time between the hours of 1 and 3, let us know, and we will try to accommodate you accordingly. Next slide, please. So with this slide, we obviously just want to give you a snapshot of our small business goal achievement over the last several years. And I give you a few seconds just to kind of take that in. As you can see in FY20, we did quite well. We achieved all of our small business related goals. FY21, we lagged. I was about to say significantly, but we lagged a little with respect to our service disabled veteran-owned goals. The goal is 9.08, was 9.08, and our goal achievement, our final numbers was 7.89. But we're doing a lot, again, behind the scenes to identify additional service-disabled veteran firms who are capable, responsive, check all of the boxes. Mr. Corey Forshee has a lot of things, ideas coming down the pipe that we are going to ingratiate into the process, again, to ensure that we properly vet all of these socio-economic groups, but namely the service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. Next slide. So lastly for me, our mission and vision again of the Air Force District of Washington Small Business Office. I do want to note here, our office, AFDW, Office of Small Business Programs, our DODAC, this is our Associated Accounting Code, is FA Foxtrot Alpha 7014. So you keyword, you go to sam.gov, and you keyword FA 7014, it should pull up, and hopefully it will pull up several related RFI, special notices, pre-solicitation notices, etc. Okay, and as you can see in the star there, PK is AFDW. PK is who we primarily support. AFDW procures advisory and assistance and information technology services for the most part for the half-staff headquarters, United States Space Force, and AFDW. Okay, to differentiate the two, or the three offices, I should say, the 11th Wing Office of Small Business Programs, DODAC, as you can see to the right there. But it's important to note all of the, or most of the construction related requirements, any construction related requirements will fall under the purview of the 11th or the 316th, right? Primarily procures base support, right? AFDW PK, that's not our wheelhouse. We are totally and solely on the A and AS side of things, IT, professional services, and the like. And yes, as you can see, as I mentioned before, the 11th Wing is headquartered on Joint Base Anacostia Bowling, and the 316th, of course, here on Joint Base Andrews. So that is how you get in contact with us, again, to express any interest that you have, and especially given the previous slide, if you want to participate in any of the forums that I share, you simply email either of those workflow boxes, and in the subject line, again, just identify the specific forum and lay out a preferred time within that 1 to 3 p.m. time frame that you're willing to participate. And that is my last slide.
Okay, so Corey, you're up next.
Next slide, please. I'm Corey Forshee, and what I'm going to discuss during my presentation is, hey, Chris talked about the type of services that we actually require within AFDW PK. I'm going to teach in regards to how to go out and find those contract opportunities. Next slide, please. The primary government point of entry is Sam.gov. So you all should already be aware of how to log into Sam.gov. The first thing you want to do once you have entered that site is select contract opportunities. Next slide, please. Once you have selected contract opportunities, you want to click into the search bar. Next slide. Once you've entered the search bar, please do enter one of the 3 NAICS codes that Chris specified. FA 7014 is for AFDW PK. This is the NAICS code for 316. The reason why I'm putting the 316 NAICS code is in here is because, sad to say, DODAC, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The DODAC is because when I went out and looked, sad to say, there were very few solicitations out there for AFDW PK. Right. Next slide, please. So once you've entered that DODAC, you want to click on the search hourglass or magnifying glass. Next slide, please. In that, and I know this is kind of small, what you will see is all the opportunities that is posted out there for that particular agency. You will see source of salt notices, you will see RFIs, and also you will see solicitations and or special notices as well. So you're able to scroll down the list on the right-hand side toolbar. And so once you get down to the end, you can go to the next screen as well because it have numbers like 1, 2, 3, and then sometimes it will have the ... sign on there if there are several. Next slide, please. Here, I'm going to go into the kitchen hood and duct maintenance requirement. So you want to select that. Next slide, please. On the first screen that pops up, it's going to give you an initial overview of the requirement. It will have the solicitation number. It will have who is actually procuring it. And there's some general information. Next slide, please. Also here is going to give the classification, the NAICS code it is under, and then also a more kind of detailed description of the requirement itself. Next slide. Also, we'll have a listing of all the attachments. So either you can download the attachments all at once, or you can download them one at a time. My suggestion is to download them all at once and then review them. Next slide, please. In order to download all of them, you want to select at the top saying download all attachments. Next slide. And so what you see here is the first attachment, which was the solicitation itself. And so the solicitation will pull up. And in turn, you will be able to scroll down to review the solicitation in its entirety. Next slide, please. All right. Once you reviewed all the attachments, and I didn't want to go through each and every one of them, at the end of it, you will see the contact information for the contracting officer and contracting specialist. What that will allow you to do is, if it has posed in the solicitation a question period, you want to do that to these individuals. Also, if it is the designated time in regards to your proposal submission date and time, email, these are the individuals you want to email your proposal to. In addition to that, they provide their telephone number. So if you just have a quick question, they may be apt to just answer that question via phone call. So you will see their telephone numbers listed here as well. Also, please do note, at the bottom of that slide, it had a history there. Well, it shows you when the initials, in that case, it was the initial solicitation was posted. If there were any amendments to it, it will be there. Also, if there was a question period in regards to where vendors can pose questions, a time and date deadline for those question submission will be on there. Then also a proposal due deadline will be on there as well. Excuse me. On this slide, I wanted to note, if you cannot find a requirement for AFDW on Sam.gov, these are some other places to look. As Chris denoted, we go out to GSA and post some of our requirements there. So you'll see here, GSA Oasis, Small Business Pool 1. Space Force is acquiring a lot of its services via that vehicle. Up under that vehicle, the core disciplines are program management, management consultant services, logistics services, engineering services, scientific services, and financial services. The awardees under that vehicle are 271 small businesses. Of those 271 small businesses, 31 are small businesses. There's an asterisk there because that is of June 30th, 2022. With that said, GSA allows vendors to submit entrance into that vehicle if they so desire. So GSA has the requirements, and there's also the contracting officer's number listed if you have any interested parties that want to become one of the contractors that are awarded a GSO Oasis Small Business Pool 1 contract. So it is a multiple award contract vehicle. They also do acquire services via NASA SOUP. That is more related to information communications technology and AV, audio video products and services. Within NASA SOUP, there's 140 plus businesses. That includes large and small. Of those 140 plus, 100 plus are small businesses. And of those small businesses, 35 are service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. Right. Again, that is a vehicle that is a multiple award IDIQ contract, and it does allow for new entrants. So if there's a desire for your company to get into that vehicle, you have to reach out to the NASA SOUP contracting officer and submit a proposal. They do have time periods to where they allow new entrants. Last but not least, I'll go over GSA EIS. The core disciplines there are virtual private network services, managed network services, voice services, and Ethernet. Those are some of our very large kind of IT services, right? Cloud providers. With that said, there are only 9 businesses on that. Sad to say, only 2 of those 9 are small businesses, and 0 are service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses. Why I wanted to put that up there is because, man, if you are interested in getting access to that vehicle, this is now a prime opportunity to submit or contact GSA and submit your proposal to get on there, right? And when I mean large businesses, I want to look, we're talking about the Verizon, the Comcast, those type of businesses. Nevertheless, there are still subcontracting opportunities with those firms for your business. And they, in fact, do go out and look for business partners in the small business arena. The reason for that is they do have subcontracting goals that they must meet. Next slide.
Okay, so I'm going to round it out and end it up here. So if you find out that the information that you do, like your next code, does not meet the requirements for AFDW or none of the wings, I want you to go to our website under helpful links. I have useful information. The link is there. And then you'll see business opportunities. That is the Air Force, for the entire Air Force, not just AFDW, expiring contract list. So if you find that list and say, okay, this is a requirement I'm doing, maybe it's for another command like ACC, ATC, or you can reach out to a small business professional to let them know you're interested in that. That is also on the Air Force small business page on how you locate a small business specialist. So the other key thing I wanted to point out here was on that helpful link information is a PDF. We give you the link for the Sam.gov, the FPO. So Federal Business Opportunity used to be the link, right? Everything's under Sam.gov now. But you still can use the Federal Periodic Data System to find what agency buy what you sell. It still will show you the top 10. So maybe it's not the Air Force, maybe it's the Army, maybe it's not DOD, maybe it's energy. It will show you that. It's like a Google search. So I recommend you do that. Also within that helpful link, I give you like the P-tax. Some of you may not know which one to do business with. Maybe it's not the federal government. Maybe it's your state. Maybe it's local. But they will help you. All that information is in that document called helpful links. Some of you want to know how to do your facility clearance. You know, that guide is on there. It's training for SBA 7J training is also there. Also, it's a presentation that I put together a long time ago for rules of the road, just accessing federal contracts. So if you have a chance, you can take a look at that. That will also point you direction of finding other opportunities within the federal government. The Air Force has a first look program, which is a government purchase card, and they look at businesses, small business right outside the base. So you can take a look at that and give you more information. Chris already spoke to you about monthly recurring virtual opportunities out there and how you go back to our website and to find out and register for that. What I don't have on this slide was, as Chris mentioned before, you know, we only have a goal for small services of veterans, not veteran-owned small business. But the Veterans Administration, they must look at that first. So you can go there first to make sure if you're a veteran-owned small business and do not have a service of a veteran status, to see what they offer, and then go back on the Federal Procurement Data System to see what other agencies are offering information. So that's what we have right now. That's the information we want to give to you guys to tell you that resources are out there, that you can go back to that. It's 24/7 access to our website and other websites. And so next slide. All right, so you saw pictures in the beginning. We all are Air Force veterans. We proudly serve, and we're looking forward to serving you and helping you with finding acquisitions within, you know, the Air Force, AFDW, or the federal government. So with that, we will now take any questions that you guys may have. Over to you, Earl.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. So again, if you have any questions, please type them on the right hand of the screen on your control panel. So please ask away. Oh, geez, there's a lot of questions. Wait a minute.
Okay. We're ready.
Nope, these are all about the video.
You said what?
These are all about the video. Wait a minute. Here's one. What is the AFDW SDVOSB FY22 goals?
Oh, that's a good question. Chris, can you pull that up? I should have had that readily available. Stand by, we'll get that for you. We'll get that for you. What's the next question?
That's the last one for now, but they're all talking about
Is that good enough?
the
Okay,
problem
we'll
we had
get that for
earlier.
you.
So I can fill the space with some information. So on my slide, I talked about Space Force utilizing GSA Oasis Small Business Pool 1 in an effort to kind of educate the service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses within that pool. I am actually having a meeting with them tomorrow. I want to say from 10:30 to 11:30 or 10 to 11 to talk about an upcoming requirement that is actually on the table. This is what kind of roadblocks that we're running into. A lot of times when these requirements are getting posted out there, RFIs, that we're finding very little response from, say, for instance, in this instance, the service-disabled veteran-owned small business community. In turn, what the contracting officer wanted to do is to go out to the general small business community itself. Me and Ms. Clark talked and said, well, hold on for 1 minute. I may be able to identify some service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses that can fulfill that requirement. So the contracting officer was told to pause for a minute until I reach out to these businesses, discuss with them that requirement, and then gather information from them in regards to their capability and willingness to provide that support and service. That service spans across CONUS and Old CONUS locations, and it's advisory and assistive services for Space Force itself. And so you will see myself pushing kind of that agenda for socioeconomic groups across Space Force requirements. In turn, what we're asking is that if you see an RFI out there and you want to respond, please do so, right? That information is being utilized to determine the acquisition strategy. Also, if you see a RFI posted out there and you need additional time, in turn, do not hesitate to reach out to the contracting officer, contracting specialist, or even contact Chris and myself to say, hey, I see it. What they're asking for is a little bit more detailed information than the time allotted to acquire or provide that information to you all. We ask you all to do that, right? So don't hesitate to reach out and say, hey, I see that requirement. Right now, my organization is focused on actually putting together proposals this week. Can we get another week to gather that information and provide to you? Or the information that you're asking for takes longer than the time allotted. And we will get with the contracting officer, contracting specialist to help them become amenable to that request. But we are in fact asking that when you see something like that, to please respond. Those requests for information or sources sought notices are being utilized to determine the acquisition strategy.
Okay, and Earl, the question was, what was our goal for SDV?
Yeah, what is the goal for, what is the goal for
Okay.
SDV or SBs?
Yes, our goal for fiscal year 22 is 7.66%. And as we're right now at 5.98% right now. And we have 1 quarter left. The other thing I want to touch on when Corey was talking, when you guys respond to RFI notices, and that this is with any federal agency, what I recommend that you do is also CC the small business specialist. The reason why I say that is that lets the contracting officer know and the SVP know that you responded to that notice, right? Because they're going to review the acquisition strategy, determine if that should go the way that the contracting officer wants. So if you're not familiar with our work, you provided our workflow information, right? We all have access to that workflow box. But if you're going to do that with another Air Force installation, the SVP information is on the Air Force Small Business page and most of the other agencies as well. And so I ask that you guys do that so you make sure that the SVPs know that you're interested in the requirement as well as the CO knowing that. So we can push that. Corey has been very diligent in trying to make sure things get set aside for the social economic category. It was a requirement that they wanted to do a small business set aside. He looked at the schedule for the GSA. He found some service-able vets on there, and he pushed and recommended for them to do a service-able veteran on small business set aside. And after he did that, they came back and said, okay, we will do that. And that's what we're here for. That's what our team does. We're here for you We're working for you. We understand. We are, like I said, we're all veterans. We appreciate veterans, and we want to see you guys get business. So that's what we're doing. So if you know you can do something, let us know. And if it's not AFDW, like I said, maybe it's another federal agency. Maybe it's somebody else within the Air Force. But make sure you go out there and look at the resources that you have to make sure you know who can do what you sell for your products or services. So do anybody have
Great.
any other questions?
Yes, the next question. Does AFDW use the VETS-2 acquisition vehicle?
The VETS-2 acquisition vehicle? Not to my
No.
knowledge.
No, we do not. And VETS-2, I hesitated too because that's not. Okay, I was thinking that was more aligned with the VA, but that's not true. But the short answer is no. But we just took a note of that, and we'll inquire and circle back with you guys about that.
Yes, we will send everything back to Earl. Some of you back in, I think it was March timeframe or May, when we did AFDW Industry Week, we had
First week of April.
First week of
Yes,
April, right? So AFDW typically will do that annually. I want to make sure you guys check our webpage constantly because we'll put that information there. It'll be on Sam.gov as well. But anything that's going on, not just for AFDW, I try to post on our AFDW small business webpage. So we want to make sure that you get a chance, opportunity, because that'll give you a chance to talk to the contract officers and the program managers, and that's every year. And it's because of COVID, they've been doing virtual and in person, so you still have the opportunity and not have to physically come to Maryland if you don't desire to do so. So make sure you keep on the lookout on our webpage for that. And like I said, the VETS-2 vehicle, we'll find out what that is and get that back to Earl, the information that he can get it back out to you guys. And some of you responded to, we asked about some barriers, right, of doing business with the Air Force. And we're responding to that, but also the Air Force established a working group that I've been attending those meetings. So what we're going to do is get that information back out as well, so you guys have access to the information.
Great. Okay, do we have any more questions? I'm waiting. We'll get the Air Force here. I'm waiting for these questions to come in. So we'll give you guys a few minutes to ask your questions.
So Earl, I do want to quickly mention, I just pulled up the VETS-2 vehicle and the answer is no, but I think I know why, and I will report this. It seems as if a lot of the IT related requirements on VET-2 were formally captured by our used to be mandatory NetSense and NetSense 2 contract. Okay. But that's something, again, I'll substantiate that and report back to you guys ASAP.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Still waiting on some questions. And again, if you have any questions after this webinar, please email me and I will pass them on to Ms. Clark and her team.
Yes, I was going to say, we're always standing by. So if you think of something else later, after you go back through the presentation and you say, oh, I forgot that, you can also sign up for the monthly outreach events to talk to Chris and Corey and the other small business professionals. But we are here to answer those questions. We don't want you guys to feel like, well, I thought about it, I should have asked this. It's never too late. We can always go back and answer the questions. We hope that this presentation has been helpful for you guys. And if it's not, let us know that too. Like what information you wanted to see. What did we not cover? Let us know that as well, because this is for you.
This is great. Well, I don't know about you, but I have flashbacks from being back at ZAFSB, being part of this presentation. So you put me to work. So,
Yes.
But thank all three of you for being part of this webinar series. And we hope to have you again.
Sure.
If you want
You just
another
let us know.
webinar series, just give me a call and we could go back and we could do this again.
Okay. Thank you guys.
Okay. Again, thank you very much. We're going to send the slides and the recording by this Friday. And again, I'm Earl, out of uniform, and I will see everybody next week. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your service.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.